Hey yogis, in this video I wanted to discuss a lesser known, probably in my opinion more important role of the gluteus medius. Now if you're not sure what the gluteus medius is or you want to get reacquainted with your gluteus medius, stand in mountain pose, so big toes to touch, inner thighs spin back, belly draws in, arms reach long by the sides. Palms face the front, root down through your four corners of the feet and then squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. Bring your hands to your outer hips. Squeeze the outer hips towards each other as you squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. Slide the hands slightly towards the butt. Bring the hands a little bit higher towards the top part of the hip or towards the hip bones. And you'll feel this muscle kind of just right here at the top outside of your hip. That there is the gluteus medius. That's what's firing in to draw the hips in, to stabilize the hips. And that stabilizing of the hips is one that doesn't get talked about enough, because in yoga what you see as we get more flexible, or for people who don't have as much control or don't know about this activation of the hips, just kind of collapse into the poses. For example, the gluteus medius, what it does is when you're walking, right, when you lift the leg to prevent this hip from just kind of collapsing out, the gluteus medius automatically draws in, so then you can stabilize and walk with the hips together instead of just kind of walking side to side, hips out, sort of like a dancing motion. Now in tree pose is an example in yoga of a perfect example of what the gluteus medius can do. So you're standing here. A lot of times to find this counterbalance, people just kind of press this hip out to the right. And what happens here is there's no activation in this outer hip. You're just kind of finding this balance by collapsing down into the hip. That could potentially lead to future injury, but more importantly, you're just not building strength. You're not finding the true pose. You're not finding the stability in the pose. So what you'll do is you'll take your gluteus medius to drive the hip in, to stand up tall, belly draws in, now heart lifts up, now I'm a stable tree. Another example here would be in a humbled crescent lunge or a humbled warrior. So we're in crescent lunge. A lot of times in crescent lunge, we just collapse down anyways. We collapse the hip out. So again, gluteus medius draws in, pulls it back. But more importantly, when we're in, I guess it's not more importantly, it's just another important aspect. When we come into this humbled warrior or this humbled crescent lunge, that kind of shows you what I'm talking about here. Again, it's just another perfect example. My hip here, you can see just kind of balloons out to the right. Right, we're just collapsing down. There's no strength building really in this pose, maybe in the quad. But what you want to do is take this outer hip, the gluteus medius, squeeze it in, and then draw the hip back. I'm going to come out of the pose a little bit as I'm in my humbled warrior. As I squeeze in, as I pull it back, I'm going to lift. But you can just feel so much more activation, so much more going on here in the hip, protecting yourself at the same time, building strength, building flexibility in the hip instead of just collapsing out. So use the gluteus medius in your standing poses, in your grounded poses to help draw the hip in. We never want to collapse into joints. Another perfect one, airplane pose, arms reach back, but a lot of times the standing leg hip goes back, this left leg kind of goes to the right. Squeeze the gluteus medius in. That's going to square the hips off, pull it back, belly draws in, heart forward. So again, standing balances, squeeze in. Lunges, warriors, all that, squeeze the gluteus medius in, draw it back. Right, so again, lesser known, in my opinion more important, use the gluteus medius to squeeze in, stabilize the hips, protect yourself from injury, build more strength, and just see the more flexibility you'll gain by engaging everything rather than just collapsing. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.